I wasn't supposed to say anything at Christmas dinner. I was supposed to sit there, smile for the photos, pass the potatoes, pretend everything was normal. Instead, I stood up, raised my glass, and told my family, "My name is not Hannah, and yours isn't really Brooks." For a second, the only sound in the room was the crackle of the fireplace in the Christmas movie playing faintly from the living room. My mother's hand started to shake. My father's face drained of color. My sister choked on her wine. Someone laughed. They thought I was joking. I wasn't. I looked each of them in the eye and said, "You stole my life. So tonight, I'm taking it back." But if you want to understand how a Christmas dinner turned into an identity funeral, you have to go back 10 days. Back to the first Christmas card that ever terrified me. It arrived on a Monday. I'd just come home from work, still in my office clothes, balancing my laptop bag, a grocery bag, and my keys between my fingers. The hallway of my apartment building smelled like someone had burned cookies and tried to hide it with cheap air freshener. Classic December. There was one envelope in my mailbox. No return address. No stamp with a clear origin, just a messy ink smear. My name was written on the front in neat, careful handwriting. Hannah Brooks. It looked like the way I write my name when I'm trying too hard. Slow. Perfect. Almost like I'm copying it from somewhere. I carried it upstairs with my groceries, dropped everything on the kitchen counter, and turned on the little fake tree I'd bought on sale. Soft white lights blinked to life in the corner. A Christmas playlist started mumbling quietly from my phone. I opened the envelope without thinking. Inside there was a simple card. A little painted village, snow minus covered roofs, warm windows glowing yellow. It looked harmless. The inside was empty, except for a photograph, and one sentence. The photo was old, the kind you find in a dusty family album. Slightly faded, with that glossy surface that catches the light in weird ways. A little girl stared up at me from a snow minus covered backyard. She was maybe 3, maybe 4. She wore a red coat, a white hat with pompons, and mittens that were too big. Her cheeks were bright pink from the cold. Her smile was wide and serious at the same time, like she had been told to smile, but wasn't sure if she was allowed. She looked exactly like me. Not kind of like me. Not we could be related. No, my eyes, my dimples. The way the left eyebrow lifted just a little higher than the right. Even the way she tilted her head, like she was bracing herself. I stared at the picture, waiting for my brain to correct itself. It didn't. Under the photo, written in the same careful handwriting, there was a single line. Her name was Lily. It should have been yours. I read it once, twice, a third time. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I laughed. A short, tight, hysterical little sound that bounced off my kitchen walls and made my own voice sound like a stranger's. This is stupid, I told myself. It's some weird prank. Wrong address. Whatever. But I didn't throw the card away. I put it on the table next to my mug, sat down, and stared at the girl in the red coat until my tea went cold. Lily. I said it out loud. Lily. It felt strange on my tongue. Sweet. Delight. I tried to brush it off. I really did. I stacked my groceries, put things in the fridge, checked my emails, scrolled through social media. But every time I looked up, the little girl in the red coat was there. It should have been yours. The words crawled under my skin and stayed there. There's something you need to know about my childhood. I don't remember anything before I was 4. People tell me that's normal. Most of us can't remember much before 5. Therapists and blog posts say. But in my family, the missing years have always felt intentional. Whenever I asked my parents about it, they would smile in that gentle, slightly distant way they reserve for uncomfortable topics. Oh, honey, You were such a quiet toddler, my mom would say. You didn't like the camera back then. You cried whenever we tried to take pictures. We didn't have good phones then, my dad would add. A lot of photos got lost when the basement flooded. Basement. Flood. The same 3 excuses. Always. No baby photos on the walls. No ultrasound pictures. No embarrassing toddler videos. Everything in our house started when I was 4. My first memory is of a Christmas tree. I remember staring at the lights, feeling like I'd never seen anything that bright or that alive. My mother told me I was being silly, that it was the same tree as last year, but I remember thinking, no. This is new. All of this is new. For years, I told myself I was overthinking it. Until that card. Until Lily. I took a photo of the photograph with my phone and zoomed in on the little girl's face. If someone had shown that picture to me without context and said, "Is this you?" I would have said yes. But the note said Lily. It should have been yours. I turned the photo over. Blank. No date. No writing. My heart started beating faster in that dull, heavy way that tells you you're about to do something you can't undo. I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring. "Hi, sweetie. How's my Christmas elf? Did you get the email about the menu? I'm thinking turkey and ham this year. Your dad wants." "Mom," I cut in. "Did you send me a Christmas card?" There was a small pause. Too small for a stranger to notice. Too long for a daughter to miss. "No," she said. "Why? Did you get something weird? People send the dumbest promotional things this time of year. You know, it's not an ad." I swallowed. A photo. A photo of what? "A little girl," I said. "In the snow. Wearing a red coat. She looks Mom. She looks exactly like me." Silence. "Is it you?" she asked finally. Her voice went light. Forced. "We probably took you to the park one year. You always loved the snow. Remember that Christmas when your dad—" "There's a name written under it," I said, cutting her off again. "Lily." Another tiny pause. And it's as I stared at the card. It's as her name was Lily. It should have been yours. For a second, I heard nothing. No breathing, no background noise. Nothing. Then my mother laughed. It was a thin, high sound I'd never heard from her before. "Oh, that's creepy," she said too quickly. "Probably some scam. Do not engage with that, Hannah, okay? People do insane stuff with photos nowadays. Deep fakes or whatever. Throw it away. Deep fakes don't turn me into a 3-year old in a red coat," I said. "Mom, are you sure it's not me?" "Hannah." My name snapped like a rubber band in her mouth. I said, "Throw it away. We'll talk about it at Christmas, okay? I don't want you spiraling over some stupid card alone in your apartment." I opened my mouth, closed it. "Fine," I said. "We'll talk at Christmas." "Good girl," she said, and I hated the way the words scraped against me. "I love you. Don't obsess. You know how your anxiety gets. It's probably nothing." She hung up. I stared at my phone. She didn't ask who sent it. She didn't ask to see it. She didn't ask me to send a picture. She just told me to throw it away. I didn't. That night, I had a dream. I was in a room I didn't recognize, but my body did. It felt like it'd been there 1,000 times. White walls. Metal bed rail. The smell of antiseptic. Machines beeped somewhere just out of sight. There was a Christmas tree in the corner, the cheap kind they put in hospital waiting rooms. A cartoon snowman smiled from the wall. A woman with tired eyes leaned over me. I couldn't see her face clearly, but her hands were warm. Her fingers shook when they brushed my hair back. "Lily," she whispered. "My little Lily. We're going to go home. I promise. Just hang on. Just a little longer." Then the lights went out. The beeping stopped. Someone screamed. I woke up with my heart racing and my pillow damp with sweat. Anxiety, I told myself out loud. You saw the card, your brain made a story. That's all. Except it never dreamed about a hospital like that before. And it never heard anyone call me Lily. The next day, I took the card to work. Not because I wanted to show it to anyone. I just couldn't leave it at home. It felt wrong to let that little girl sit alone in my dark apartment. I slipped it into the back of my notebook and tried to focus on emails, spreadsheets, the normal things that make up a Tuesday. Around 11, my coworker Ashley dropped into the chair opposite my desk. You look like you saw a ghost, she said. Or like you listened to Christmas music for more than 4 hours in a row. Which is basically the same thing. I'm fine. She squinted at me. You're blinking too much. That's your tell. What's wrong? I hesitated. Then I did something stupid. Can I show you something? Is it your search history? She said. Because if it's your search history, I'm not emotionally prepared. I pulled the card from my notebook and slid the photograph across the desk. She picked it up, studied it, then looked up at me. Her face shifted. What the hell, Hannah? Right? My voice came out thin. Who do you think that is? She frowned. You. It's not. What do you mean it's not? That's you as a kid. I can literally see your entire face in there. The little eyebrow thing, It's not me, I said again. My mom says it isn't. She says it's some scam. Like AI or something. Ashley flipped the photo over. No marks. She read the line under the picture. Her name was Lily. It should have been yours. She looked up slowly. What does that even mean? I don't know. Who sent it? No idea. No return address. She stared at me for a long moment, and when she spoke again her voice was softer. You don't have baby pictures, do you? I swallowed. I remember you said your parents don't like photos, she said slowly. But that's weird, hon. Like, we all have at least one embarrassing bathtub picture. Or at least one grainy potato minus quality Christmas shot. You have nothing? Not before 4, I said. They say a lot of stuff got destroyed in a flood. She leaned back. That is the beginning of every murder documentary I've ever watched. Thanks, I muttered. I'm serious, she said. This is creepy. Are you going to confront them? At Christmas, I said. Mom told me to wait. Ashley shook her head. That's a red flag. You know that, right? Don't think about the weird thing until we're all together and can control the narrative. I hated that she was right. I hated even more that it already thought the same thing. That night, I took the photo out again and really studied the background. A wooden fence. A crooked birdhouse. A tree with a low, familiar branch. I knew that tree. My parents' old backyard. Not the current house. The one before. The one they sold after a pipe burst ruined the basement and so many memories. I dug through my closet until I found the battered shoebox that held the few photos I'd managed to salvage from my teenage years. School pictures. A couple of birthday shots. A blurry image of me and my sister on that same lawn, years older, standing under that same low branch. Same fence. Same birdhouse. The little girl in the red coat was standing where I had stood. I checked the photo edges. They weren't cut minus and minus pasted. No weird lines. No bad editing. Either someone had gone to insane lengths to fake this, or my mother had lied. I didn't sleep much that night. 2 days later, I got the call. It was a private number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Static crackled. Then a woman's voice, older but sharp. Is this Hannah? Yes. You sound like her, the woman murmured. God. Who is this? The woman ignored me. Did you get my card? She asked. My stomach dropped. The little girl in the red coat, she said. I stood up without realizing it. Who are you? I pause. I could hear her breathing. I'm the woman who was supposed to be your mother, she said. For a second, the room tilted. The words didn't make sense. They collided with old questions in my head and exploded. What? They told me you died, she whispered. On Christmas Eve. They told me my baby was gone. They told me to let go. 3 years later, I saw you in their backyard. I couldn't breathe. Whose backyard? I asked, even though I already knew. Mark and Elaine, she said. The Brooks family. My parents' names. I don't understand, I whispered. You have the wrong person. I'm their daughter. They're my parents. They're the people who took you from the hospital, she said. They changed your name. They started over. And they used my grief as cover. I laughed. That's insane, I said. That's criminal. My parents are not, they're not kidnappers. She let out a sound that was somewhere between a sob and a bitter laugh. Do you know what it's like, she said slowly, to sit in a courtroom and listen to doctors explain how your baby died? To watch everyone pat your hand and tell you to move on. To clean out an nursery 3 days before Christmas. To sign papers you barely see because your eyes won't stop crying? I didn't answer. Do you know what it's like, she continued, to be walking past a schoolyard 3 years later and see your dead child's face looking back at you from someone else's arms? My knees went weak. That's not. You're wrong, I whispered. There must be some mistake. I've seen my birth certificate. I have photos. You have memories from when you were 4, she said. Nothing before that, right? My mouth went dry. You love Christmas, she went on, but it makes you uneasy. Hospitals make you anxious. You can't stand the smell of antiseptic. Loud beeping makes your skin crawl. You don't know why. I felt sick. How do you know that? I whispered. Because you're my daughter, she said. And for 20-5 years, I have watched that family parade you in Christmas cards like a prize. They changed your name. They remade your story. They told everyone you were theirs, and they got away with it. You don't have proof, I said, clinging to the words like a life raft. You can't. If this was real, you would have gone to the police. I did, she said. No one believed me. A grieving mother seeing her dead child everywhere. That's what they called it. Grief psychosis. I closed my eyes. I filed complaints, she said. I hired a private investigator. He found just enough to scare them, but not enough to win in court. Stopped calling. Disappeared. My hand shook around the phone. Why contact me now? I asked. Because I'm dying, she said simply. Cancer doesn't care how long you've been waiting for justice. I don't have time to fight in court. But I can give you the truth. She took a breath. And I can tell you where to look. I didn't want to believe her. But there is a difference between not wanting something to be true and it's false. She gave me dates, names, places, the name of the hospital where she said I was born, the exact ward, the nurse who'd been on duty, the date she was told I died, the date my parents moved to a new town, the date my father changed jobs, the date they suddenly had the money for a house with a big backyard and a low branch tree. All within months of each other. You don't have to trust me, she said. Go to the county records office. Look at your birth certificate. Every adoption, every change, leaves fingerprints. Even when people try to wipe them away. How do you know my parents' names? I asked one last time. She was quiet for a long moment. Because Elaine was my roommate at the maternity ward, she said. We shared a curtain. She wanted a baby more than anything, and she hated that her body wouldn't cooperate. I pitied her. I never imagined. Her voice broke. I never imagined she'd take mine. She hung up. I stood in my kitchen, phone in my hand, the card on the table, the fake Christmas tree blinking stupidly in the corner, and I felt my life tilt sideways. There are moments you can't walk back from. That was one of them. The next day, I took a sick day from work. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Ashley. I told myself I was being crazy, paranoid, and then I drove to the records office anyway. The building was ugly, with flickering fluorescent lights in the tired smell of paper and dust and bureaucracy. The clerk behind the glass was bored in a way that felt almost offensive. I need a copy of my birth certificate, I said, sliding my ID under the glass. Fill this out, she said without looking up, handing me a form. Named his 5 best friends for betting on my Hannah Elaine Brooks. Date of birth friends. December 24. Place of birth. I hesitated. I only knew what my parents had told me. I wrote it down anyway. She took the form, typed something into her computer. Frowned, typed again. That's weird, she muttered. What? She looked up at me for the first time. Her eyes were sharper than her tone. There are 2 entries for that number, she said. Looks like the original was updated. Lots of notes. Can I see? I asked. Let me print it, she said. Hang on. She walked away. I watched her talk to someone in an office. They both glanced at the screen, then at me. It felt like watching people whisper behind a mirror. When she came back, she handed me 2 sheets. This is the current one, she said, tapping the first. We don't usually show both, but since it's you. I looked down. The current version said, name Hannah Elaine Brooks. Mother, Elaine Brooks. Father Mark Brooks. Born, December 24, 0:32 m. Hospital, Street, Matthews. The archived version said, name, baby girl pending. Mother Margaret Lane. Father, born December 24, 0:32 am. Hospital Street, Matthews. Updated December 24 deceased. My hands started to shake. That's I swallowed. This can't be right. This is someone else. The file numbers are the same, the clerk said. There's a note here about an administrative correction. That's why there are 2 versions. Looks like someone requested a reissue. A few years later. What date? I asked. She squinted. Reissue date December 24. 3 years after the original. Just before Christmas. 3 years. The age in the photo. The little girl in the red coat. Something loud was beating in my ears. I realized it was my own heart. Is that common? I asked. To reissue like that? Not with a deceased note, she said slowly. Usually when a baby is recorded as deceased, that's final. But this looks like someone filed a petition to correct the file. With a court order. She glanced at me. Do you know anything about this? No, I whispered. I knew nothing. And suddenly I knew too much. I didn't go home. I drove past my apartment and went straight to my parents' house. The same house they'd bought after the flood. The same street I'd learned to ride a bike on. The same driveway where Dad had written our names in chalk one summer and laughed when the rain washed them away. Survival of the fittest, H.E.D. said. The world forgets fast. Now, I was sure if H.E.D. been joking. Their Christmas decorations were already up. White lights on the porch. A wreath on the door. An inflatable snowman in the yard, waving like an idiot. I rang the bell. My mother opened the door with a dish towel in her hands and surprise on her face. Hannah, she said. What are you? Is everything okay? I held up the card. We need to talk, I said. Her eyes landed on the photo and for a split second, just 1 second, her face crumpled. Then she smiled. Come in, she said brightly. I'll make tea. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she'd bandaged scraped knees and helped with homework and told me about our family history. Now, the card lay between us like a crime scene. Where did you get that? She asked quietly. It came in the mail, I said. No return address, Just my name. She nodded slowly, as if she'd already suspected the answer. And you spoke to her, she said. My throat tightened. To who? To Margaret, she said. To the woman who can't let go. I stared at her. So she is real. My mother closed her eyes briefly, then opened them and folded her hands together. Yes, she said. She's real. Unwell Hannah. She always has been. She lost a baby and she never recovered. She started seeing that child everywhere. She latched onto us because we were nearby. Because I had you. And she didn't. She says I am her child, I said. My mother flinched. Just a little. She says you and Dad took me from the hospital, I continued. She says you changed my name. She says my file was altered. She told me about the reissued birth certificate. The one with her name on the original, and yours on the new one. My mother's face went very still. That woman, she said slowly, has been trying to destroy this family for 20-5 years. You didn't answer the question, I said. Did you take me? No, she snapped. Of course we didn't. We adopted you. Through the system. We couldn't have children, you know that. You were a miracle. We did everything by the book. Then why didn't you ever tell me I was adopted? I asked. Why are there no photos of me as a baby? Why is there a death record with my birth time on it? She stared at me, breathing hard. Because you were sick, she said finally. You were in the NICU. They didn't think you'd make it. The hospital screwed up your file. They marked you as deceased when you weren't. We fought like hell to fix it. We went to court. It was traumatic and complicated, and we decided that if you survived, you deserved a fresh start. Without that story hanging over you. It sounded neat, like a script she'd practiced in the mirror. Why is the original mother's name there? I asked, tapping the archived paper. Because she carried you, my mother said. But she was not in a position to raise a child. She was unstable. She signed away her rights. We stepped in. We gave you a home. Did you ever tell her I survived? I asked quietly. Silence. My mother looked down at her hands. She knew there was a petition. She said finally. But after the hearing, the doctors decided it was better for her mental health if... She trailed off. If what? If she believed you were gone, my mother whispered. My stomach turned. So you let her think her child was dead, I said slowly. You let her grieve. You watched her bury an empty casket. You watched her sit in a courtroom and hear that her baby had died. And you walked out with that baby. With you. My mother said sharply. I walked out with you. My daughter. The one I fed and held and sang to. The one I woke up for at 3 a.m. The one I sent to school. The one I worked for. She reached across the table, grabbed my hand. I chose you, she said fiercely. She didn't. She couldn't. She was sick, Hannah. She wanted to run with you. To live on the streets. To disappear. We gave you everything. You have no idea what we risked. I pulled my hand back. What you risked, I said slowly, or what you stole. Her eyes filled with tears. I will not apologize for loving you, she said. I will not apologize for keeping you safe. You will apologize for lying. You will apologize for letting another woman think her child was dead. She wouldn't have been a good mother, my mom whispered. That was your decision, I said. We stared at each other across the table. Where's Dad? At work, she said. He doesn't need to be dragged into this now. We'll talk as a family on Christmas. We'll explain. We'll show you the documents. You'll see that what we did, her voice softened. You'll see that what we did was out of love. I picked up the card. The little girl in the red coat stared up at me like she was waiting for a verdict. He'll be here for Christmas, I said. But I'm not coming to listen to excuses. Hannah? I stood up. For the first time in my life, I said quietly. I'm coming to tell a story too. In the days before Christmas, I lived into timelines. In one, I went to work, answered emails, nodded at small talk, wrapped presents. In the other, I became an investigator in my own life. I called the hospital. They stonewalled me. I requested my medical records. Half of them were missing. I looked up court archives. There was a closed hearing file with sealed documents and my initials. I searched for Margaret Lane online, old news articles, a grieving mother, a hospital error, a tragic Christmas story. She had been painted as a cautionary tale about the dangers of clinging to false hope. I found an address in an old directory, a small house in a neighborhood 20 minutes from where I grew up. On December RD, I drove there. I don't know what I expected. An empty lot. A stranger. A locked door. I didn't expect her. She opened the door before I knocked, as if she'd been standing behind it, listening for my footsteps. She was smaller than I imagined. Thinner. Lines etched deep into her face. The kind grief burns into you and time never fully erases. But her eyes were mine. Or maybe mine were hers. We stared at each other. Lily, she whispered. Hannah. I said automatically. I mean, I don't know. She smiled sadly. May I hug you? I hesitated. Then I nodded. She smelled like cinnamon and laundry detergent. Her arms were shaky but strong. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt tears sink into her sweater. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't even know what I was apologizing for. You have nothing to be sorry for, she murmured into my hair. You were the one thing everyone took from. We sat at her kitchen table. It was smaller than my parents', but it felt more solid. She showed me baby clothes she'd kept. A tiny knitted hat. A hospital bracelet with the date and time that matched my birth certificate. Baby girl Lane. 24:12, 0:32. She showed me the court filings where she'd tried to challenge the death certificate, claiming she'd never seen the body. She showed me letters she'd written to the hospital, unanswered. She showed me a faded photograph from the maternity ward. Two women in beds separated by a curtain, one grinning through exhaustion, holding a bundle, the other looking down at her own empty arms. Elaine, Margaret, do you hate me? I asked quietly. For what? She said. For letting them be my parents, I said. For loving them. For not knowing you existed. She shook her head. Sweetheart, she said softly, you were a baby. Babies don't choose who raises them. I swallowed. I don't know what to call you. I admitted. I don't know what any of this makes me. Or you. You don't have to decide today, she said. You don't owe me a label. I just needed you to know you weren't crazy. That your questions were real. That your missing memories weren't some glitch. That someone did this to you. She reached across the table, took my hand, and that on Christmas Eve, she added quietly, they will sit you at their table and pretend they saved you. I looked at our joined hands. What if they're right? I whispered. What if you were sick? What if you couldn't take care of me? What if they really did give me a better life? She smiled. But there was pain in it. Maybe they did, she said. Maybe you grew up safer. Maybe you got things I couldn't have given you. Her eyes glistened. But they could have done that without murdering me on paper. I pictured my parents signing forms while a young woman sobbed in a hallway. I pictured a judge. A closed door. A decision made without me. I don't know what to do, I said. Tell the truth, she said. Whatever you choose after that, you'll live with it better if you start there. And that's how I ended up at Christmas dinner, standing in front of a tree covered in ornaments from a life that might never have been mine, holding a glass of wine I had no intention of drinking. Everyone was there. My parents, bustling in and out of the kitchen, cheeks flushed from heat and nerves. My younger sister Sophie, who'd never doubted she belonged. She sat on the couch, scrolling her phone, wearing the stupid reindeer antlers Mom buys every year. My grandparents, frail but sharp, whispering to each other. My Uncle David and Aunt Rachel, their 2 kids already sticky with candy canes. It looked like every Christmas we'd ever had. Except this time, it invited someone, and I hadn't told my parents. Margaret sat at the far end of the table, her hands folded in her lap. She looked like an old friend of the family, a distant relative. No one questioned it when I said, "This is Margaret." She didn't have anywhere to go this year. My parents' eyes had flicked to her, then to me, but they said nothing, not yet. We ate. We made small talk. We opened crackers and wore paper crowns. My heart beat harder with every minute. Finally, my dad stood and tapped his glass. "I want to make a toast," smiling his practiced smile, "to family, to survival, to another year together." Everyone raised their glasses, and I stood up. "I'd like to make a toast to," I said. My mother's eyes snapped to mine. Her hand tightened around her glass. "Hannah," she said softly, "a warning." I ignored it. "I want to toast," I said, "to the power of stories." A few people laughed politely. "See, I grew up hearing one story," I continued, "about who I am, about where I came from, about how much my parents wanted me, about the miracle of my birth, about a flood that destroyed all my baby photos, about a hospital error that was too traumatic to talk about." I looked at my mother, at how lucky I was that they saved me. My father's jaw clenched. "Hannah," he said quietly, "this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I said. I pulled something from my pocket and placed it on the table. "To birth certificates. One current, one archived." Silence spread across the room like ice. "This," I said, tapping the first, "is my birth certificate. The one I grew up with. Hannah Elaine Brooks, born to Mark and Elaine, Christmas Eve. Street. Matthews." I tapped the second. "This is the original. Baby girl Lane, same date, same time, same hospital, marked deceased for days later." My grandparents leaned forward, squinting. "What is this?" my grandfather asked. "A mistake," my father said quickly. "An old hospital error. We told you, remember? There were issues with the paperwork when we adopted Hannah." "You never told me you adopted me," I said. The room went still again. "You told me I was yours, biologically. You told me we just didn't talk about the medical stuff because it was traumatic." Sophie stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "Wait," she said weakly. "Adopted?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We are your parents," she said. "We raised you. We fed you. You're the people who got the court to reissue my birth certificate with your names on it," I said. 3 years after I was born. Right after a grieving mother was told to move on. Right after she was told her baby was dead. Aunt Rachel looked from me to Margaret, then back. "Hannah," she said slowly, "who is this woman exactly?" I turned to Margaret. "Would you like to introduce yourself?" I asked. She stood up. "My name is Margaret Lane," she said, her voice steady. "On December th, 20-8 years ago, I gave birth to a baby girl. She was sick. They took her to the NICU. For days later, they told me she had died." She looked at my parents. "Your mother was in the bed next to mine," she said to me. "She couldn't have children. She cried when she held you. I felt sorry for her." My mother's lips trembled. "This woman has been harassing us for years," she said to the table. "She attached herself to us after her loss. She started making wild accusations that match closed court records," I said. I pulled my phone from my pocket. I requested transcripts. I said. I know, Dad, that you changed jobs and moved states right after the reissue hearing. I know the judge sealed the case. I know the hospital settled quietly. I know there was a petition from you and Mom saying that the birth mother was mentally unfit, that it would be better for her if the baby died on paper so she could heal. My father slammed his hand on the table. That's enough, he snapped. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're right, I said softly. For 20-8 years, I had no idea. I had your version. Just your version, the noble savior story. The we rescued a baby no one wanted story. The crazy woman can't let go story. I looked at my grandparents. They let another woman bury an empty coffin, I said. They watched her twist in grief. They let the world call her insane when she said she'd seen her child alive. And they didn't correct anyone, because it was easier if she disappeared. My grandmother's hand flew to her mouth. Mark, she whispered. Tell me this isn't true. My dad's face twisted. We did what we had to do, he said. There were complications. Legal issues. The hospital messed up. We took on all the responsibility. We saved Hannah. Margaret was unstable. She wanted to take the baby and run. She talked about leaving the country, about hiding. We couldn't let that happen. We did what was best for the child. You did what was best for you, I said. You wanted a baby. You found one. And when the paperwork got messy, you found a way to erase the original mother from the picture. Hannah, we love you, my mother whispered. Tears streaked her mascara. We chose you. Doesn't that matter more than biology, more than a mistake in a file? It matters, I said. But so does the truth. I took a deep breath. I did something else, I said. Because I knew you'd spin this. I knew you'd blame her, so I recorded our conversation the other day. I tapped my phone. A voice file appeared. I hit play. My mother's voice filled the room. Shaky, unedited. Honest in the way people only are when they think no one else will hear. We decided that if you survived, you deserved a fresh start, past minus, Mom said. Without that story hanging over you. My voice. Did you ever tell her I survived? A pause. She knew there was a petition, my mother's recorded voice said. But after the hearing, the doctors decided it was better for her mental health if she believed you were gone. I stopped the recording. No one moved. My father's face went red. You had no right to record your own mother, he said, his voice low and dangerous. You had no right to rewrite my life, I said. Sophie stood up abruptly, knocking her chair back. Is this real? She said, her voice breaking. You knew all this? You let me grow up thinking my sister almost died in the end. I see you and it was just some tragic bad luck, when really you. Enough, my father barked. Sophie flinched. No, she said. Not enough. Not even close to enough. She looked at me. What are you going to do? She asked. I looked around the table. At the grandparents who'd smiled at me in baby photos that never existed. At the aunt and uncle who'd invited us to barbecues, to birthdays, to graduations. At my parents who had loved me and lied to me in equal measure. At Margaret, who had lost everything and kept the grief alive alone. I already did something, I said quietly. I looked at my father. I sent the recordings, I said. And the documents. To a lawyer, to the hospital's internal review board. To a journalist who's been looking into sealed adoption cases. And to the state attorney's office. My father's face twisted. You're going to destroy this family, he said. You destroyed it the day you stole someone else's, I said. My mother reached for me, her voice desperate. Hannah, please, she said. We can fix this. We can sit down with Margaret, with everyone. We can explain. We can tell them how much we love you. You had 20 minus 5 years to tell the truth, I said. You chose a story that made you heroes and made her a ghost. I turned to Margaret. You once asked me if I hated you, I said. I don't. I don't know what you would have been like as a mother. Maybe you would have failed. Maybe you would have fallen apart. Maybe I would have had a worse life. Or maybe I would have had a different one. I looked back at my parents. But I deserve the choice to know, I said. You took that from both of us. No one spoke. The snow outside pressed against the windows, muting the world. Somewhere in the living room, a Christmas carol reached the line about joy to the world, and it sounded like a bad joke. My grandmother began to cry. Soft, broken little sounds. What happens now? She whispered. I took a breath. Now, I sighed. You all get to decide what story you tell yourselves to sleep at night. That you rescued me. That the ends justified the means. That you're victims of a crazy woman and an ungrateful daughter. I felt my voice steady, and I get to decide who I am, I said. Not the miracle baby, not the pity adoption, not the ghost of a dead child, not the girl in the red coat. Me. I looked at Margaret, and for the first time in my life, I used the name that had haunted my dreams. My name is Hannah, I said. And I'm done pretending those are two different people. My father shook his head slowly. You're making a mistake, he said. Maybe, I said. But at least it'll be my own. I picked up my coat from the back of my chair. I'm leaving, I said. I won't disappear. I won't change my number. If you ever decide to tell the truth without rewriting it to make yourselves the heroes, you can call me. Until then, I won't sit at a table built on a lie. My mother reached for me one last time. Hannah, please, she whispered. We love you. I paused. I believe you, I said. I think you do love me. That's what makes this so twisted. You loved me enough to keep me. But not enough to be honest. Not enough to admit what you did. Real love doesn't need a stolen story to exist. I turned to Margaret. Are you coming? I asked. She nodded, eyes wet, hands shaking. We walked to the door together. As I opened it, cold air rushed in. Snowflakes swirled in, landing on my cheeks, my eyelashes. For a second, I felt like the little girl in the red coat, standing in a yard that was hers, smiling for a camera she hadn't agreed to. Behind me, my father shouted my name. My mother sobbed. Voices rose. I stepped outside anyway. The air was sharp, clean, brutally honest. Margaret stood beside me, clutching her coat around her. What now? She asked softly. I looked at the house Sid grown up in. The glowing windows. The shadow of a tree with a low branch. The life it'd been given. The life that had been taken from someone else. Now, I said, we start telling the story the way it actually happened. I took her hand. And this time, I added, no one gets to rewrite the ending but us. We walked away from the house, footprints marking a new path in the fresh snow. Behind us, inside, a family that had built its identity on a lie sat around a table, finally forced to look at the empty seat where their version of me used to sit. Ahead of me, the night was dark and uncertain. For the first time in my life, it felt like it truly belonged to me.